No. Triple B score. We have a triple B score on today's, what was that, Scrabble? I don't know.
Like
we got
US's
Brian.
credit rating.
It's a triple B. Yeah, that's a credit rating, right?
Yeah.
Much better than
better
than the Federal Reserve note, right?
Yeah.
That's not doing so well. Hopefully this is a triple A rated podcast for you today. Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Engelman, and this is the Agree to Disagree show on the new American media because the old American media has failed you. Today is Tuesday, May 21, 2024, and I'm going to do a magic trick. Now, theoretically, my audio would sound differently, as if it
does
the other microphone. So, good times. We are chugging along on today's program. We want to, of course, welcome Blake Walley. If you love him, go to Cash App, and that's BWally99, I believe. Blake, is that correct? Correct me if I'm off on that.
I think he's $ Blake W99. I don't know. Yeah.
There we go. Blake W99. We'll figure it out, but he's also at The Next Level News and on X at TV's Blake Walley. Follow him. And now our special guest of the day. This is Mr. Brian McWilliams joining us live from the West Coast. Brian, we have you for a little bit today, so I think we want to jump right to you and talk about things, man. Pretty chill week for you, huh?
Oh, yeah. Just easing into the boiling hot water that is the Libertarian Convention this year. And I just tweeted this out. This year, we have so much attention because obviously Donald Trump's coming, Vivek's coming, RFK is coming. It's really thrown a monkey wrench into the formerly low-stress job of being communications director for the party because now people actually give a damn. You know, being relevant has its drawbacks. I'll tell you that much. So, yeah, it's been insane. It's been hectic. But glad to jump on with you guys and be able to talk through some of the stuff that's going on.
Absolutely. So we need the who, what, where, when, why. Tell us about the convention, all that stuff. I'm very interested in your whole story, but shit, today just isn't the time to go super in depth into all of that. But something you kind of touched on there, and it was a conversation you and I had yesterday. I mentioned in passing, kind of in jest, Brian McWilliams is a comedian and loves to tell the joke, but kind of cracking a joke. I was like, well, you know, I kind of caught wind that Donald freaking Trump is going to talk at the Libertarian Convention this weekend. I'm like, why? Why would they have him? Why is he going? I know he's asking for the vote, but I said, holy shit, the Libertarian Party convention is relevant for the first time I can remember. And I've always leaned heavily libertarian as like the third party underdog candidate, Republicans, Democrats, they're two wings of the same dirty bird. I've always been endeared to the party, but it's never really felt like it mattered until recently. So talk about the strife internally. Like, I'm sure not everybody's thrilled that this is happening, but it generated interest from someone like me who should have been paying attention for 20 years. It's never felt relevant, and now it suddenly does. So take it wherever you'd like to.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you know, it's interesting. So we did have a lot of internal strife in the party. We still do. And there's a lot of people rubbing their hands, waiting for this to fail, to fall flat on its face, right? But to your point, people are interested for the first time. Media, we've got basically 300 media coming to cover the Libertarian Convention. That's never happened. Not in the history of the convention. There's never been this much interest. There's never been an opportunity to brand the party, to get in front of people at a time when polls are showing, you know, upwards of 70% of people want a third party. Do they know who we are? Do we know where we are, what we stand for? They don't. So this opportunity came together, and all credit to Angela McArdle, who was our chairwoman or chairman, whatever you want to say. She and Donald Trump's campaign kind of, I guess, you know, mutually came to agreement that this is going to happen. We sent out invites to Trump. We sent out invites to RFK, and we've been talking to him for a long time, as you probably know. He'd flirted with the party for quite some time, and also to Biden. Biden, there's no way in hell he's going to come, but Trump said yes. Now, the reason for that is because we are representative of a large portion of Americans that are coming around to the thinking of libertarianism, whether they know it or not. But the Trump campaign certainly knows it. Now, what they mean by that is that we've got runaway inflation, runaway spending, runaway war state, runaway deep state. We've got policies and votes that clearly go against our best interest. You've got, you know, they just voted in this domestic spying bill that pretty much gives complete, you know, unadulterated access to us for the NSA, for the snooping agencies. And nobody seems to give a damn, right? So Trump's
Unreal.
people acknowledge that we represent a large component and growing component of the population. And at a time when he's, this is his last hurrah. I mean, I think he's in a race that's tight. It looks like it's getting a little bit broader, but for him to come and say, I'm going to address the issues the Libertarian Party is bringing to the forefront. And as this is going, it's going to be decided by our membership. It's 10 questions we're giving to him to answer, to be held accountable in front of what is, to be honest, going to be an audience that he hasn't faced before, namely an audience that is going to be critical.
Yeah. By the way, iron sharpens iron. I had the same
Yes.
debate with Anomaly a year and a half ago. At the time, I was like, you can't have DeSantis turning on Trump. They're attacking him with lawfare. Republicans need to circle their wagons and protect him. And AJ was like, but you have to have these tough debates. You got to answer for Fauci. You got to answer for warp speed. You got to answer for bump stock bans and red flag law. Like iron needs to sharpen iron in debates. But in this cycle, it's been in Trump's benefit to, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. Why would I step in quicksand? Why would I want to end up in a bear trap when I could just shut up and cruise into the presidency? Because Biden, Obama's third term, is the worst thing anybody's ever seen in the Oval Office in the past 100 years easily. Yeah. So him stepping into the Lions of Liberty den, the Lion's Den, if you will, I mean, this has a 100% possibility of blowing up in Trump's face. I don't know how much it could possibly help him. You got to admire the balls on a man that's going to at least try that. But, man, it's risky. I don't know that I'd advise him to do it. He's coasting into first place. Why screw it up?
It's risky, but look, they wanted to do it. That's the thing is when the offer was made, it was a very quick, yes, we want to do it. But like I said, because what we're representing with our questions is questions that a lot of Americans have. A lot of Americans, if they're questioning a Donald Trump presidency, they're going to say, what's up with the vaccines? What's up with, record spending under you? You're supposed to be a conservative, and that's on top of the other issues we're going to be bringing to the forefront. So they're going to be tuning in to find out how he's going to be held accountable. And for him, this is the opportunity to address those questions. And they're taking it very seriously because they know if you're the mainstream media, if you're the corporate press, you hate Donald Trump. There's certain outlets that might be a little bit more Trump friendly, maybe a Fox, maybe an Epoch Times, something like that. But for the most part, you've got ABC, NBC, CNN, whatever these outlets are, they hate Trump. The thing that they want to see is him fail in front of our crowd. So the Trump campaign is taking this unbelievably seriously. That's why we're confident that this is going to be a unique event. This is going to be something that people are going to go, wow, holy shit. He's answering to these people. Their opinion matters, and their questions are exactly what I want answered.
Yeah, and your opportunity to grab him by the shoulders and say, hey, you got a couple of things right, but you got to come with us. Can we guide you? Can we surround you with some more Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, the Ron Paul, the libertarian spirit? Can we just drag you change your direction? You got a few things. We know that's off the cliff. So I don't want to go off the cliff. You got at least a handful of things right. Libertarians notoriously pious. It's hard to meet the standards of a gold, Are you a big L or a little L libertarian? It's like, I don't know. I just want to be left alone. Well, that's little L. You need to join the Mises Caucus. And it's like, okay, I get it. I love you. But in reality, I saw Donald Trump this weekend, by the way, Brian. I saw him speaking about, I believe it was abortion. And he was saying, well, look, it's got kicked back to the states, and that's a local decision. He goes, but you got to understand there's policies that will help you get elected, and there's policies that aren't really going to help. And pragmatically, we have to kind of think about it. Was Trump begging the Republicans like, hey, can you back off the abortion issue and just go libertarian on it? He was pleading with them and he's still trying to figure out how to do that because he didn't deliver an applause line. It kind of went and dragged, and he didn't quite nail it, and he just went to the next topic because the Republicans really don't want to hear a libertarian stance on abortion, but it's a winning stance to just say, let the woman make the woman's choice, even if you're personally pro-life. Please, that's the way to win an election. And so he's already trying to beg Republicans for concessions, and I guess now he's going to the libertarians pleading for you to consider a Republican who's really a Democrat from New York, but it is what it is pragmatically. Would you like to get 10 things right or nothing right? for the next 4 years.
Well,
I feel like he's at least understanding that.
A couple things on that. So like you're talking about, there's a definite influence on public policy we're trying to have here, right? Because Donald Trump looks like, if you believe the polling, it looks like he is at this point going to be the next president. So when are we ever going to have an opportunity to try to shape policy in our position? This is it for now. And by shaping that policy and by getting in front of people, we might set ourselves up to have more influence in the next generation, which is what we're really thinking of. This is a long-term strategy. From Trump's perspective, I'm very curious to see how he's going to deliver this, because he's addressing our topics, and there's some of these topics I don't see how he's going to really spin to our liking. So it's either going to have to be him changing poly positions, explaining his positions and why he did what he did and how it's going to change, or trying to win us over with, I guess, promises of working together to the future. I'm curious to see how this is going to happen. So that all kind of plays into it. To your point about the Republican Party and kind of, trying to get them placated, I think that the Republican Party may be distancing themselves a little bit from the, again, some of those previous hardline positions. You're seeing this in the way that there was outrage over what Mike Johnson did recently with the spending bills, with some of the more hardline positions that are hardline in the way that they're basically supporting the uniparty line. And to find a balance between where the Republican Party is now and where it needs to be is going to be a challenge for, I think, any candidate. And abortion is a great position to look at for that. So it's going to be fascinating. We're looking at not only Donald Trump speaking, but I do want to address also RFK being there as well. Because to go back to my initial point, it proves that the powers that be acknowledge where the public is going. And it's not to the extremes. It's not to where the parties are, whether it's extreme right or extreme left, or the uniparty line of more spending, more inflation, less rights, less freedoms. Everybody hates everybody. People are coming to the middle, which is why you've got an RFK and you've got a Trump speaking at the same event to the same crowd. And that is a very powerful voting bloc that's growing, and you can see it happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of, Blake and I ended up at an RFK event down in Nashville. And I mean, it had, who was on it, Blake? What comedians were on it? Russell Brand.
And Rob Schneider and Jim Brewer. Yeah, it was a big lineup.
Yeah.
These were all people who were heavily into medical freedom at a time when it was not, you were not making many friends, and you were definitely being censored or deleted from the public sphere of life for merely saying, just like if a woman wants to make her choice, that is her personal choice, I kind of don't want anything shoved inside of me unless I choose to do that. It's like we're having the Harvey Weinstein conversation about vaccines, but we weren't allowed to say, I don't want this thing slid into me, and well, I don't want it. I don't want that fluid. Thank you very much. To make it gross, I'm doing that intentionally because it is gross. But these comedians were teamed up with RFK Jr. because that's his, like what a great issue to just say, I've been blasting my mouth for 4 years straight about this crap. And RFK Jr., he's got a couple of things right on this topic. He's been a loud voice, consistent, often maligned, but he's still chugging through. They killed his family, his dad and his uncle. He's still not shutting up. Brian, you and I talked about our podcast and all the censorship we've had over the past couple of years, but we wrapped up that part of it saying, and we're still talking, aren't we?
Yep.
We're still talking. So I think it is very interesting what's happening with RFK and Trump at the Libertarian Convention. Blake, you had an observation you wanted to make, and then we'll give Brian a chance. I know he's got to run.
Yeah.
To kind of give us the who, what, where, when, why, the overview on the Libertarian Convention, if people are still interested. Is there room? Is there space? Like just all of that. But to you, Blake.
Well, it's pretty awesome to see this convention. I mean, it's a huge lineup to have Trump and Vivek and RFK Jr. all in the same spot. That is a huge maneuver for the Libertarians, which I remember back in 2004 when I was registered as a Libertarian. They had Michael Bednarik, or when they put up Bill Weld or what have you. So they've come a long way, but it's a diverse group also, with Libertarians having different views. So this is terrific. The only thing I have an issue with, I'm curious why Why did they choose DC instead of like a Nashville or something like that?
That was decided by the previous iteration of leadership. Now, that being said, I will say there's advantages to being in DC. As inconvenient as it is, as you know, it's in the heart of the demon. There are advantages. You know, Thomas Massey being able to introduce and you know, on the floor his End the Fed bill and then walk over to our convention center and walk around doing a meet and greet. That ain't happening if you're not in DC. I mean, there are distinct advantages to being there. I'm sure next year it will not be in DC, but for now, it couldn't be a better position for what we're trying to accomplish for the people we have coming. And, you know, to the point about Vivek, we didn't talk about him yet. Again, you know, tying into this movement, Vivek is going to debate our candidate for vice president on the best way to reign in the state, to basically dismantle the state. This is, you know, Vivek Ramaswamy is running for GOP. He was running for presidential candidate. He may still be considered a VP candidate for Trump. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. And he's doing a debate on how to dismantle the fucking state. That tells you where things are going. We're winning. The philosophy is winning. It's just getting people there where they can engage with it. And that's basically what's happening. So to wrap up, the convention is starting on Thursday, this Thursday, and it goes through the 26th. Now, you're going to have Vivek is going to be on Friday. RFK Jr. is on Friday. Donald Trump is on Saturday. And then Sunday wraps up with I'll announce here because I'm going to be posting on social media momentarily, but Ron Paul is going to be giving the keynote speech on Sunday and then a big gala event. So there you have it. It's going to be an event to remember. I hope it's not the most memorable event in libertarian history, but if it is, I'm glad to be a part of it. This is setting the stage for a bigger movement. Wait and watch. Because this 2024 is going to be a year that you'll look back on and say, that's the year that everything changed. We started going back to sanity. And we started reigning in our government. We started making movements. I'm telling you, it's happening.
Ron.
And yes, you can still register, by the way. Go to lp.org or you can go to, hold on, I'll read it especially because I don't want to mess up the actual site. Go to, and of course, it's taken forever to load, lnc2024.com. You can still buy tickets. So if you want to come, you can still get access. There's also events like comedy shows and talks and lunches you can get tickets for in addition to that if you don't want to go to the actual convention. You just want to hang out. It's going to be a blast. We're putting the party. Oh, an Afro Man. Afro Man is coming to play songs at our convention. Hunter got high. That tells you where the party's at, my friends. We are the party where the party's at.
This is really happening, Brian. This isn't like some sort of. This is what it should have always been. And by the way, for Trump, the president, who the only one in my lifetime who didn't drag us into some unnecessary foreign conflict, to jump into the libertarian, go, guys. I got a couple of things right. You know, I got a couple of things right. Vivek, one of the most. You can love him, hate him. I don't know. He's one of the most talented orators and communicators that has been able to deliver a message of liberty. There's a lot of well-intentioned people that just don't have the chops. Vivek has the chops. Trump, we saw what he was able to do. Nobody expected whatever that was. And who knows what the next chapter is. Is it lnc2024.com?
Yep, lnc2024.com. You got it.
Okay, we have that on the screen. Go ahead and get tickets. You said there's tickets available for
there's
like
still,
the weekend pass?
Yes, you can still get tickets. I don't know for how much longer, so hurry up. But yes, you can still get tickets as of now.
Awesome. Well, hey,
thanks guys.
So much. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully to talk to you at the convention. You're going to be there, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Thank you very much. Yeah, looking
forward.
forward.
And, to be continued, sir. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Oh my God, Afro Man and Ron Paul, the legend himself.
Bigger than the DNC and the RNC combined. It sounds
I hope Ron Paul somehow teams up with Afro Man.
You're not going to want to answer, but one last question. I know you're not going to want to answer. Well, or maybe you would. Is there any chance that the Libertarian Party does not choose one of the select people in the Libertarian nomination circles as their choice? Like, is RFK actually saying, guys, I'm making one last plea to you. Can you please back me in this convention instead of a libertarian candidate? Same
That's
with
where I'm sure his pitch will be that. Yeah. I mean, they're all there to pitch libertarians and voting for them instead of the libertarian candidate. From a party perspective, we're not endorsing RFK. We're not endorsing Donald Trump. Nor are we going to do anything to co-campaign with them. But like we talked about, steel sharpens steel. And half of these people that cried foul and, oh my God, I can't believe your platform. We're libertarians. You believe in the free market of ideas. If your ideas cannot hold up, if Donald Trump can come and convince us that people should vote for Donald Trump, that he's the way to go, well, then good on Donald Trump. He won that round. He convinced us. If your ideas aren't strong enough to retain your willpower and not vote for Donald Trump and not be swayed by RFK, then they're not that good of ideas, are they? It's that simple.
Well said. Iron sharpening iron. So
Yep.
Thank you so much, Brian. To be continued. We'll catch up with you in a couple of days, sir.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Yeah, I look forward to talking with Brian when we have a little bit more time next time. Always a good time. I could talk with Brian for like hours. Maybe same with you and Ford, Oder Matt. I mean, I guess I can
by himself, right?
Yeah, even by myself. Here, let me put this up on the screen
That's
one more
great.
time. How surprised were you to hear about Ron Paul?
Yeah, that's like breaking news as far as I'm concerned. I had no idea he was going to be on the ticket. So if he's going to be a keynote, well, it looks like I might have to spend an extra day there. I was planning on coming back Sunday, but maybe it'll have to be Monday instead. I mean, how do I miss Ron Paul? So that's like 4 huge speakers. I mean, I've been to these libertarian convention type things before, at least on a state level in Nevada, and it was like, big deal, but they never had big candidates. I mean, Gary Johnson. I mean, nice guy. Michael Bednarik was a great guy. Bill Weld's a nice enough guy, but it didn't really seem like a typical libertarian by any means. But now, yeah, they're open. And they're going to have some huge speakers. And I think, there looks like, a rising star like Ramaswamy. Yeah, it's a big, bright future for libertarian. So I can't think of a reason, I like the idea of going to the DNC and the RNC, but what's really the point? Like we went in 2016 and it was contentious between, whether the party was going to take Trump or whether they were going to try to, get him at the last minute and do something shenanigans, Karl Rove, or put in Mitt Romney or something. And of course, DNC had the huge rift with Bernie and Hillary. But I mean, this year, it's just more of a coronation. But it sounds like everything's going down at the Libertarian Convention in DC this weekend. So very exciting.
The place to be, the Libertarian Convention.
Yes, Kenneth, it is reality. I know it's shocking, but this is happening.
Yeah, what do they say? Is this real life? Is this real life?
Yeah, pretty much. We're winning, they're sinning.
All right. Well, today's show is a little impromptu, and today's show is a little rushed. We don't. Well, so just in the effort of trying to communicate the most important stories, Blake. We see what's happening now. Donald Trump, he said he's going to give an event in New York tomorrow, I believe. And there's going to be a counter event in the same park. So that's potential for all sorts of stupid over there. But
it's so annoying. And they come out and they just troll with like making noises and stuff. Like, I want to hear these speakers, what they got to say. But then they just sit there and they shout people down, or they're using, I don't know, air horns or cowbells. I've seen it turns into a shit show.
Yeah, what? I here we go. I feel like I stuttered 35 times there, winding up for my pitch. I would say that air horns and loud noises, that type of audio assault, I consider it assault. That's not peaceful protest. That is a fight. I have hearing damage, and it physically hurts me when the sounds are too loud, too abrupt, too shrill, too like that is inflicting harm. You can have your opinion and you can speak your mind, but you do not have the right to get in my ear and hurt me. That's assault, brother. I think, what was that from Billy Madison? That's assault, brother, or Happy Gilmore, one of them.
Right.
Yeah, but we'll see how that shakes out. I mean, obviously, that's just like the standard fare. You would anticipate that any sort of public officials would instantly put an end to crap like that. But of course, New York is a fallen state. I don't even, you can watch what happens in New York with assuming it's some sort of parody. It doesn't even feel real. It's almost all upside down, as evidenced with this Trump trial. So that being said, man, it's going to be an interesting week. But yeah, we're going to kind of keep it pithy today. We've seen the Trump trial, Blake. It's winding down. It's like they've delivered their final remarks. Anticipation of some sort of resolution here. Cohen, Stormy Daniels. I can pull up a couple of tweets real quick, but in the meantime, just what's your take on all of this? This has been dragging on for weeks, and we're kind of reaching a crescendo now. What have we learned? What haven't we learned? And what should we take away from all this?
Well, it seems both of the star witnesses here in this trial, Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen, their testimony has not gone well, not the way that they thought. And it seems to be like the case is falling apart. I'm even seeing these, clips on leftist media seeming like there's nothing there. There's no there. So they're really grasping at straws. It's not going the way they wanted it to. It's a big show trial. They wanted to put Trump away forever, make an example of him. But they had nothing there, and they're relying on two extremely unreliable people who contradicted themselves. So, and they could still, convict him with a corrupt jury and a activist judge, but they can just appeal it. The people see through this. No matter how much you hate Trump, I mean, there's just this. It never was a case. They just manufactured this whole thing. So
yeah, right now they have they're showing a plane flying a banner over New York saying President Trump did nothing wrong. We saw upwards of 100,000 people at the New Jersey rally for President Trump the other day because he's stuck around New York. Might as well campaign there. Blake, I mean, you got to think at this point that places like New Jersey and New York are absolutely in play at this stage of the game. Looking here at the New American Media, we're at American_media_. By the way, follow Brian McWilliams at Brian McWilliams at Lions of Liberty and lionsofliberty.com. In my haste, I don't think I gave him his proper plug. I'll make sure you follow him there. But if you're here at American_media_, it shows a couple of things. It shows people turning their backs on Joe Biden. If you just go back a couple of years, there's pictures from the military, this is National Guard and the Marines with their backs turned on Biden intentionally. Perhaps, maybe it's a picture taken out of context. But what we do know is that graduates at the all-black Morehouse College have turned their back on Biden during commencement speech, refusing to applaud. So, Blake, I mean, the loathing of the reply saying that the deep state Democrats earned this loathing, I think it's twofold. I think, number one, it's important that we don't say America hates Biden, like America runs on Duncan. America loathes Joe Biden. I don't want to get wrapped up in Biden because I fully expect a bait and switch for him to be swapped out at the last second for Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama or something. This is the deep state Democrats that have earned this loathing. So my question to you is, Blake, do you think places like New Jersey and New York could realistically be in play for Trump to win in the 2024 election?
Yeah, he should be. I think he's in play in probably just about every blue state I can think of. I mean, I don't know, maybe Hawaii, maybe, I don't know, was it Vermont? I don't know. There's a couple of places. But even in deep blue Minnesota, where I'm from, it seems like he's gaining traction. He keeps getting closer. And I think if the election is fair and we can all agree on the results, then I think he can win just about anywhere. I think this could be a historic landslide. I think it should have been in 2020, but whatever. 2024, we shall see. But
there's that phrase, reality, to rig.
Right. Yeah. Without even getting into the weeds on whether it's rigged or not, or whether there's shenanigans or election meddling. It just seems like in reality, and more people are leaving the Biden. Not necessarily that they're embracing Trump, but they're realizing like this has really been bad, and it wasn't that bad under Trump. No matter how much the media hates him, is that based in reality? And no, they've discredited themselves so many times. They've put out so many different hoaxes that have backfired. I think people are going to wise up this time around.
Well, one of the biggest hoaxes, of course, at least as far as how it was portrayed, you can have your version of flowery language, but you can't have your version of truth. January 6th was a mostly peaceful protest, and then some people did some things. That's what we were told during the Summer of Love. It's a mostly peaceful but fiery protest. In comparison, I mean, not a single. Anyway, without getting into the weeds. But Julie Kelly was reporting this, saying that all of these cases from the Hamas-surrection protests in Washington, they're being adjudicated at a local D.C. court and not federal. Not a single Hamas-surrectionist, including those who assaulted police, because that's where we start to draw a line, Blake. It's physical violence. You're screaming in my ear. You're harming me. That is pain. You're inflicting pain on me. That is an assault. When you start assaulting police and you're in the Capitol and it's for a very specific political purpose, do you label everything insurrection? Well, it was a mostly peaceful protest, and then a couple people did some stuff. Merrick Garland, how they are taking the Department of Justice and they're applying it to harm and just maximum carnage people that went to Washington, D.C. to air their grievances and did not assault anybody. Well, they walked in a spot they shouldn't have walked. I'm not even saying people that stole things. If you start chucking things and starting a fight with the police, I think you enter a different category. Like, that's something we can set aside. But there's a lot of people who did nonviolent acts that are not being fairly treated from a same justice system that's giving slaps on the wrist and letting things disappear from people who did get violent with police and law authority figures. What do you say about that dichotomy, the difference of the distribution of punitive justice under the Biden/Obama's puppeteers justice system that we have?
Well, they wanted to run with that narrative and try to demonize their opposition. I mean, it's fine to go after the people that were causing violence, vandalizing, attacking cops. Absolutely. You can put them in jail for whatever time. But the innocent people that just walked into the building and had no idea that it was restricted or that it was wrong because they didn't know that. And it wasn't as though, the cops in there were trying to like, hey, you can't be in here. And they were defying orders. Like, they legitimately had no idea. And for them to be just, thrown into this DC gulag like they were criminals and like grandmas and like people that were nonviolent, that was awful. They overplayed their hand there.
They overplayed their hand, Blake, and they could easily be you could face a day in court. You could get a sentence suspended. Wear an ankle monitor, or you have to check in. You're on parole for 12 months. Like, really, you should have thought before. Like, to just do something like that to nonviolent people who were at a protest, as you are allowed to do, to withhold that and go after them, that's not really just overplaying your hand. It's going into gross malfeasance. I really think there should be criminal charges for the people who have distributed an unequal version of justice. You see it in the Trump charges across the country, whether it's Georgia or New York. Pick a place. You're extending sunset clauses on statutes of limitations. There's no harmed party, no aggrieved party when it's coming to the loan case in New York. Just unsubstantiated accusations. It's beyond kangaroo court. It's beyond the regular type of stuff that we're used to seeing in banana republics. This is overtly coup style Marxist. Pick any of your worst totalitarian regime in history. This is what we're getting out of Obama Biden. I want to read this to you from Laura Logan. And yeah, the point being is that is how despised the Democrat Party is at this point. Are New York and New Jersey in play? You're damned right they're in play. They were in play 4 years ago. We all know it. And there's no way that this country wants what's been happening. There's no way. Anyway, without getting lost in the weeds and making unsubstantiated claims, I don't know how we got to this point, but Biden is so despised by nearly every demographic. That's just why I think it's so important that we don't think about Biden. Think about the deep state Democrat Party, Blake. The deep state Democrat Party, because it is highly possible. Would you say it's highly possible or probable or likely that Biden is replaced? He's doing these debates in June now. He agreed to 2 debates or 4 debates. Trump's trying to drag him into 4. Were you surprised that Biden got dragged into debates?
Yes, because he's a big liability. And Trump even went further and kind of went with a checkmate to say, oh, by the way, I also want to get him have a drug test. Because it'd be one thing if, Biden shows up all methed up like he did at the State of the Union, because then he can actually function at a fairly high level, even though he's like shouting half the time, which is animated. But normally he's just barely there. He's mumbling and stumbling through, procedures. And then he's reading the wrong things off the teleprompter. And then getting lost on stage. So they know he's not going to be able to make it. It takes a lot of effort to prop him up. I'm surprised he's got a debate because people want to see the debate. He's not going to take the drug test because they know they don't want that to be seen. And then, I would think that they would try to replace him. I don't know if Michelle or Gavin are going to go over well. Michelle does not want it. I don't think people like Gavin, and I think people look at California as a failed state. So who else are they going to bring up? I don't know. They seem to be out of talent. So
I had the thought recently, Blake, what are the chances? Because when we were going through the RFK Jr. story the other day, we kind of came across like, hold on, he's only set up in 4 states. Hold on one second, Blake. Take it from there. What about RFK as a candidate?
Well, I mean, I like a lot, but there's also some things that he's put out that are a bit alarming, but some things that he's walked back and he's changed his opinion on, which is good. He did put out, I saw an article today. In fact, I'm just going to look at it real quickly. It's from the Washington Examiner. Is that RFK Jr. has $5 billion. He's got a reparations plan to top Biden and Trump in November, which is odd. I don't know if that's a good strategy there. Actually, I'll just pull it up here. Brian's going to step out for a bit, but I'm going to cover something. And I do like RFK. He's a good man, and I respect him running. But, there you go, Brian. That wasn't long.
No, not long. But when certain calls come through, you got to double check them. So, yes, everything is good on the Western front there. But, yeah, Biden and what he's been doing, you got something pulled up here. Oh, let me change the ticker. RFK Jr., he's only on the ballot in a few states. I'm wondering if RFK Jr. could bounce to the Democrat Party when Biden steps aside. That wouldn't be the worst selection, except I don't think there's any way the Democrat Party would want someone like him. I think they just need a stooge, right? They just want a puppet. Right. No legitimate, unique train of thought may apply.
No, well, I think they'd love to have a rock star. I mean, if they could bring Obama back, they would for a 3rd term, and that would be a formidable opponent. But fortunately, there's rules against that. So whether they can drag out Michelle or not is another story. But yeah, I mean, they've had rock stars. They've had, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Anthony Weiner got destroyed. Otherwise, we could be looking at an Anthony Weiner running, and he'd be very charismatic, even though he's, sociopath. But now that he's been exposed, literally, he's not there. But now they're out of talent. And now they've gotten so far radicalized left that I don't know how people can take those, odd positions and try to make them seem credible. And you're seeing, a distancing. You're seeing some interesting things from just like Bill Maher, just the differences between the party. And I've been talking about that for a long time. Like, I don't think I've changed a whole lot politically in the last 20 years, But I think 20 years ago, I identified more as like, a liberal, like our libertarian style, not a Democrat per se, but I had a lot more in common with them. But now it's unrecognizable.
I was sounding the alarm bells. I mean, geez, mid late 90s, 2000s, you could tell what was being pushed and how wonky and wacky it is. And
Clinton was awesome during the 90s. I mean, George Bush Sr. was awful in 88, 92. Reagan was great. And then, the second term was a little sketchy. And then Bush came in. There was recession. There was war. Bill Clinton came in like a fucking rock star. And this country was booming. It was awesome. I think that was about the strongest I've seen this country in my life was during the 90s. Everything.
I think the first 2 years of Trump were fantastic. I think
that was great
humming along until the attack. Humming along. Winning so big, we're going to get tired of winning.
No, absolutely. Right.
I will just add with Bill Clinton, set the Epstein Island stuff aside if you can, which you can't, but let's pretend you can. And his ghastly, ghoulish appearance and knowing what type of monstrous deviant this guy is. He's just like Biden.
But we didn't know that.
As much of an abuser, an essay abuser. But that being said, I think Bill Clinton got a lot of credit for what happened with the personal computer boom. I think you can credit Clinton with a little bit for not screwing things up. But that was Microsoft. That was Apple. That was Google, or pre-Google. It was just... That was the beginning of the internet, and he just happened to be along for the ride. I don't think yes, he played his saxophone on Arsenio Hall, and some people called him America's first black president, and he was young and hip. I never liked him. I always really disliked the guy, but he didn't screw things up too bad. I'll give him that much credit. But that being said.
Right. He was so good, so smart, so cool.
Well, the Republicans
never looked more lame. The Republicans were so fucking lame in the 90s. They were pathetic. They were just the last of the warmongers. And they were so old and out of touch dinosaurs. They were lame. And then in the 2000s, they went full neocon warmonger, awful. And now the Republican Party is, halfway respectable. At least, some of the people, it's changed. It's changed a lot because now the Republicans have, more of the cool and the interesting people, and the Democrats are insane.
It's so weird. I'm just, by the way, if you missed our interview with Brian McWilliams with the Libertarian Party, you got to check it out. Go to at Lions of Liberty, at Brian McWilliams, or you could go to LN. Oh, geez, I moved the screen. LNC something. LNC2024.com if you want to go to the Libertarian Convention where the rock stars will be speaking. It's not like RFK Jr. is a rock star. He's very hard to understand with his speech impediment. He doesn't have the oratory skill of a JFK or a Bill Clinton. No, even a Bill Clinton.
Or his dad, Bobby, but it's too bad. We don't really know because he does have that speech issue. Mm-hmm. And one thing I'll say is that, I thought his running mate, although she's a nice lady, she doesn't seem to quite balance him out where she should be the big, extrovert, outgoing person to kind of compliment and do a lot of the speaking on his behalf. But she's kind of more, scripted. Like I can't, complain. Like when she was up on stage, she was reading a lot from note cards. But you see the difference between what an introvert looks like, relying on notes, and I do that myself, versus an extrovert like Trump, who can sit out there and just talk off the cuff for hours. Brian's also the same thing. Right.
Give me hours. No guidelines, hours. I don't need notes.
Brian, we need somebody to go out there for 4 hours. There's no scripts. The teleprompters are broken. I just need somebody to go up there and talk.
Yeah, I'm your guy.
Brian, you're my man.
What's the topic? Doesn't matter. Blake, you've seen this in person how many times?
Right.
Over and over again. All right. Well, what do you have up here? Back to the story we're talking about RFK.
Well,
$5 billion in reparations.
I like RFK, but this is another one where it's like, I don't know about this one. This is not one I can get behind either. But I mean, he's trying to find his angle or wherever he can pick up voters. maybe that's something they'll have to ask him at the Libertarian convention. They don't need to give him too hard of a time, but it's out of the Washington Examiner. It's RFK Jr.'s $5 billion reparations plan to top Biden and Trump in November, if that's somehow going to win over the black votes or something. It's almost kind of like with Biden trying to get rid of student loan debts. And it's like, the reparations thing again. In principle, I don't know. In theory, maybe it sounds okay, but in reality, it's like you're giving tons of money to people who were never slaves and states that never had slavery, and you're taking money from people that never owned slaves. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Let's go after the countries involved in it, not the United States. Go after all of Africa, all of Europe, because they're called slaves and named after Slavic. It's just humanity has been enslaved for, like, the story of humanity is that we keep getting enslaved by people, and it's bullshit. And it's everywhere. So to just look at one country and, oh yeah, we want some money for this. Like, from who, from where to why? It just doesn't compute by any stretch. But yeah, it's a lot of pandering, and it's, you have to wonder the ulterior motives of this stuff, Blake. It just seems so hyper, I don't know, maybe not partisan, but just hyper ridiculous. I don't know.
It might not be just a full slavery thing. It's more like black farmers and an inflation reduction. It's a little complicated, but it's kind of one of those things maybe you shouldn't. I don't know if that's going to be a popular issue. It's one thing when you kind of get caught off guard with, like, the abortion and where do you draw the line? And then you realize, oh, maybe that's not a good idea, and you walk it back. So I'm not saying this is all going to be like has been said before with reparations, or it's going to be what's been floated around by Democrats, especially in California. But it's still like a strange issue to target.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he's polling. Hey, it's interesting. He says he's polling like 9.8%, almost 10%. That's a big deal, even without all of the highlights, without the national attention, without the commercials, without all of the infrastructure that a lot of these other, the big parties have. He's still making a pretty significant impact. So I still hope he, gets to be in the debates. So, we shall see. Of course, they don't want to.
Yeah, we shall see about it. The thing is that the country seems to have moved on from the DEI stuff, reparations and racism against certain groups of people because they're men, because they're women, because they're Republican, because they're Democrat, because they're white, because they're black, because they're Asian. DEI really just stands for didn't earn it. And I feel like America is completely done with this because we've been completely bullied for 30 years into hating ourselves, hating our culture, hating our country, hating our history, hating everything. Like it's been a very specific plan. And many of the people who have gone along with it did it under soft or not so soft threats and pressure. And we've reached a critical mass where critical race theory, where all of these races, the diversity, equity, inclusion, they all sound great. And it just means that they're going to be racist. They're going to discriminate. They're going to harm one particular demographic for no apparent reason, no legal reason. And the country soured on that. So just the concept of reparations at a time like this feels so backward, antiquated, and it's just an inability to read the room. It's like what our guest Brian McWilliams was saying earlier in today's show. If you missed it, go back and check it out. He was saying that there's a change, there's a turning of the tides, kind of steering the wheel back to sanity. That things have gone crazy, not just off the rails in a couple of ways, crazy. And now the people who have been silent on the sidelines, they've been go along to get along, trying to make things work, they are off the fence and participating. So yeah, I don't see any appetite for stuff like this from the American public at all. Something else that I don't think the American public has any interest in is enriching our culture with 30 million people invading the country illegally, if there's some modest amount of immigration that occurs at the actual ports and from people who have been thoroughly vetted medically, financially, criminally, there's a conversation about some manageable amount of immigration to this country that could make this a better place. We covered last week, there were some recent European polls that went out. 95%, 70%, 65%, 80% go country to country in Europe. They are done with it. They don't approve of unlimited, unvetted migration, immigration, invasion. They are done with it. And I want to talk about this Laura Logan post here. It went out through the New American Media earlier today. If you're not following, follow Blake. He's at TV's Blake Walley. Follow Brian McWilliams at Brian McWilliams and at Lions of Liberty. And follow the New American Media at American_media_. Blake, this is going to be a huge issue. And Laura Loomer says, important. For 4 years under the current administration, the border has been effectively open. We have yet to see the full consequences of that, but I have been investigating this, and it is worse than anyone thought. There are people inside this country now who are far more dangerous than those who carried out 9/11 and hardened by many years on the battlefield. The obvious reason they would infiltrate a country with something like this in significant numbers is that they are planning something. These are not the type of people who would come to America for a better life. This comes from multiple sources, external and internal, whose identities need to be protected for security reasons, and because this is a national security crisis that has not been addressed. Stay tuned. Take note of those who attack me for reporting. There's a good chance that they're operatives or being directed by someone else and too stupid to realize that they're being used. If they say they are patriots, it's probably not true, or maybe they just aren't very bright. This is a very serious and detailed national security situation, and it is ongoing, so I cannot say any more at this time. Blake, what's going on here at the border is a major issue in 2024, and we're seeing Merrick Garland being called to account, Mayorkas being called to account, Biden being called to account. I mean, just in general, what are your thoughts on what Biden is, as we're trying to figure out who we vote for in a couple of months to lead this country? I mean, is New York in play? Is New Jersey in play? I've seen it said that every state is now a border state. So, I mean, are you, like Laura, maybe waiting for the other shoe to drop here? Do you think that the country is completely aghast at what's been happening and calls out and recognizes this is 100% intentional from the deep state Democrats?
Yeah, this is what I'm hearing. Yeah, a lot of people that are like hardcore Democrats forever are starting to turn, especially in these sanctuary cities like, New York or Chicago, maybe even California. Or we're being invaded, and it appears to be intentional. They still have no good reason for why we've let in millions. I don't even want to speculate how many. It's insane the amount of people. It feels like they are trying to shift the dynamics of this country and bring in a voting bloc. Like they know they can't win the election legitimately, so they're going to bring in illegal aliens that can vote to keep their citizenship by voting Democrat. But maybe that's going to backfire, and these longtime Democrats that they thought they had under their control are going to say no. They're going to say no. We want Trump back. And yes, we felt the pain for years. And I was looking at some inflation numbers that were just mind blowing. In fact, why don't I just pull some of this up, Brian? You eat out a lot, don't you?
No. I eat out more than I should because I really can't trust the ingredients, and it really does get expensive. I mean, you can do the same stuff at home for 30%. I mean.
No, I hear it. I just wasn't sure if you did or not. But
I do. Do you, Blake? Do you eat out a lot these days? We've both worked in hospitality for so long. I mean, it's second nature to us.
Right. I mean, I did. I like to cook at home, but I mean, it was different years ago. Like during, say, the pandemic when that first started, I went I get unemployment money, and I got a lot of I got tons of DoorDash. I used to order. I spent between LA, I spent a little time in Austin, and that was one of the perks, right? Getting the money, and then you're buying some good food that you're getting delivered. But now, I mean, the food is so outrageously expensive, and I mean, some of it's like almost like doubled over the last few years. And now I'm seeing a lot of these like longtime restaurants that I've grown up with are going out of business. They're going bankrupt. I know Red Lobster just filed the other day.
Yeah.
There's a series of other major restaurants that are in trouble, and you can't even afford to go. And when you do on those special occasions, you're blown away by how much things actually cost. I mean, this is a quick menu. This is from McDonald's, Taco Bell, and Chick-fil-A. And just there's no such thing as a dollar meal or dollar menu anymore. And you're seeing increases of a lot of it's over 100% for just things that used to be, cost effective and cheap. Yeah, aren't good for you, but it was cheap and convenient. Now it's not cheap at all. So what do you do? I don't know how the average person out there is surviving. I don't know how this is going to affect the entire restaurant industry going forward. It used to be, it's so difficult just to, stay profitable. And now it's like they keep raising prices, but they're still struggling to get by. So people see that. And people go to the grocery store and they know they're being lied to about all the numbers. They can say the inflation numbers or this and that, but they're taking major factors out of the equation. I had the
conversation about DoorDash, and it was like looking at some Taco Bell. I'm like, what in the world? How much for a couple things from Taco Bell? And the joke came back was, don't worry, I have Taco Bell. I have taco money. Don't worry, I have taco money. But it's like, these are like 3 times the price is how much the service fee goes into DoorDash or whichever service it was. And then you're going, these cannot be the normal prices. I could be having a steak dinner for this. Like I'm into $20-$30 here. I could get a steak somewhere, a real meal. It never used to be like this. And when we did the Man on the Street, Blake, down in Nashville at the RFK Jr. event, everybody, when I gave them the chance, you're playing a reality show, 3 people are on an island, you get to vote one of them off for the 2024 election. Who do you vote off and why? Biden, Trump, or RFK Jr.? They all jumped to Biden. And the why was just inflation, the economy, everything's too expensive. They are just butchering the economy. That you cannot go to a store and not be feeling like pulling your hair out. Like, I don't even know what world I'm living in now. Oh, well, housing has gone up. Oh, the cost of this, of bacon has gone up. No. Also, the purchasing power of the dollar is being destroyed intentionally. Whether that's to ram us into a central bank digital currency, a CBDC, whether that's because the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South America, South Africa, because they are all colluding to take the dollar away as the basket of currencies, the one thing that you trade oil and energy supplies in, because they're sick of our deep state meddling in their country and throwing things into world war. People are sick of the shit, Blake. The other countries are sick of America meddling in Ukraine with the energy companies, Burisma, all the Biden-Obama crap. Trump didn't get us into a single brand new conflict. And people are tired of it, but everyone sees the inflation at the store. It's a little convoluted when you get into geopolitics. And I told him I'm going to withhold that aid unless he appoints a different prosecutor. Well, son of a bitch, he appointed a new prosecutor. I know I sounded a little bit like George Bush there, but that was supposed to be my Joe Biden, bragging about getting the prosecutor off the trail of Hunter Biden with the corrupt Burisma overthrowing Ukraine in 2013, leading to a nuclear world war threat in 2024. It's a little convoluted, but when your grocery bill hits $400 freaking dollars for a couple of bags of groceries, you know shit's wrong. Now, on the flip side, we heard Brian McWilliams talking about it, saying, well, it's not like Trump was good with his spending. Look what happened. Look at the rampant spending during Trump's administration. He's no better, and that's going to devalue the dollar as well as we run 30-something trillion in debt. running up a tab of an extra trillion every 3 months now. It's insanity. But everyone knows that whatever Biden is doing right now, none of this shit is helping the country. None of it's helping their personal pocketbooks at all. And that's, you put your finger on the pulse and you do a man on the street. Well, maybe after a couple you don't notice, but after 10 or 20, you're pretty well clued in that most of the people are anti-Biden for these reasons. And Blake, that might be part of the reason why. I actually have a different story pulled up. But that's part of the reason why there's a Trump rally in South Bronx. The Dems are planning a counter demonstration here. I'm just reading this out of USA Today. This is kind of breaking, so I'll just give you a highlight here. Former President Donald Trump announced he's holding a rally in the South Bronx. So the New York Democrats are like, we're going to do something. So the two camps will face off at Crotona Park, where both events will begin at 6 p.m. Thursday, May 23. That is coming up on Thursday, May 23rd. The Trump campaign said he plans to discuss inflation, migrant crisis, and crime during President Joe Biden's term in his remarks. State Democratic Assemblywoman Amanda Septimo and civil rights activist Kirsten John Foy invited community members to gather at the opposite end of the park for an event called Trump Isn't Welcome in the Bronx. So Trump holding a campaign rally in South Bronx and not getting an answer from us. Not on my watch. But, I mean, Blake, Trump lived for decades in the Trump Tower penthouse in New York City. He's been in Florida since 2019, and the rally is going to be his first time in the state of New York since 2016. It says the Empire State, a place near to President Trump's heart, has been decimated by Biden, the Trump campaign said in a statement. President Trump will ease the financial pressures placed on households and reestablish law and order in New York. Blake, once again, I mean, the people of New York have got to be sympathetic to this. The NIMBYism, the not in my backyard. Look, it's not just Texas being a border state with this problem. New York has been bombarded with this situation. It is too much to handle, and it just seems like the residents might be interested in something new, right?
I would think so. I would think that we've had a good look at what the Biden regime is like. And do we want another 4 years of this? I seem to remember things were way better during the Trump administration, no matter how much the media told me that he was the worst thing ever. Times were great. Yeah. No war. The economy was booming. Everything seemed fine. We were trending in the right direction again. I loved watching the media freak out and panic about it, but I guess they convinced the public that, Trump was somehow, compromised. He had stolen the election. He was working hand in hand with Putin. He was getting paid by the Kremlin. He was just the worst thing. Yes. And so I don't know. These people are just completely delusional. So there must be on some kind of a DNC payroll or something. I think, real people see that, how could you sit there in New York in the last few years? You got to think that there's a mass exodus. People are getting out of there. It's turning into a hellhole. So they need Trump back. So I don't know why they're freaking out we got to keep Trump back. Oh yeah, really? You want another 4 years of Biden? I don't get it, but there's a lot of things I don't seem to understand. There's a cult followers that are convinced that Trump is the worst thing. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are hard to understand about this. I understand why they would have a knee-jerk reaction to President Trump and his yellow ties showing up. But, I mean, he's right. The financial pressures placed on households, President Trump will ease those, and he thinks that the people want to reestablish law and order in New York. I mean, just the optics that somebody could sneak through the back door of your nation and then get 4-star treatment at a fancy hotel, Blake, and they're living high on the hog while you're struggling to put groceries in your refrigerator. You're having a hard time paying your bills, a real hard time. There's no bigger slap in the face than what Biden and the deep state Democrats have chosen to do to the good people of New York. I love America's cities. I love them. I moved to Los Angeles and spent roughly 15 years living in one of America's big cities. And at the end, I couldn't even recognize what it was before. What it was before was a great place with potential, but it had a lot of problems and a lot of safety issues, a lot of crime. And there were improvements made over a decade. And in those last 5 years, Blake, the drug epidemic, the crime spiral, the safety issues, people were definitely getting harmed. Lives were lost and ruined forever. These things are not the type of thing that you can have in a thriving, vibrant, big American city. Oh, yeah, crime's just a part of life in big American cities. It doesn't have to be. It does not have to be. And anyone that tells you otherwise, what do you got to look at? Blake, who are the leaders? Not Bolsonaro in Brazil. That went backward with Lula. El Salvador. Argentina, right? Malay. There's a few places that have shown you can quickly turn your place from a hellscape into a paradise. You can do it. And it's not complicated. You know what's getting in the way? Deep state Democrat ideology that rewards criminality. It does not have to be that way. I love our big American cities, our great American cities, but I hate what they've become. And so if I were living in New York, I would be very sympathetic to hearing what former resident of New York, who is running for president, who's being persecuted and prosecuted in the craziest lawfare actions you have ever seen, victimless, air quote, crimes, to take him out, man, I would feel like I am simpatico with President Trump, that I'm in a similar boat, throwing my hands up, just saying, why? Why is this allowed to happen in my great city where I live, where my friends live, where my kids go to school, where my jobs are on the corner? I love this neighborhood, and look how you've ruined it. I would be so ready for a change. So this is, according to the New York State Comptroller, the South Bronx being predominantly Hispanic and Black, 64 and 31% to the residents. These are two groups Trump has room to improve upon in the polls. It says Trump, I don't know, saying Trump lost points. I'm not buying it. I'm not repeating that. But Trump's rally will come days, because I don't believe some of the polls that are keeping this close. This should be the biggest blowout in American political history. Trump's rally will come days before next week's final arguments in his ongoing air quote criminal trial, which will take place in a lower Manhattan courtroom on May 28th. The first former president was indicted. That doesn't make sense. The former president was indicted on 34 felony counts by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg for allegedly falsifying business records ahead of the 2016 election with hush money payments. So I don't know, Blake. I mean, this could be very interesting. Trump in the Bronx. He's there with the Hispanic community, with the Black community. He just put nearly 100,000 of them in New Jersey. I mean, you got it. It's like Brian McWilliams was saying, him going into this environment. It's kind of unusual, and it's kind of a big deal, and it's kind of very important right now. Trump is reaching out to places that traditional, old school, stuffy neocon Republicans dared not tread before. So, do you think President Trump will be successful in his effort to get New York to give him a chance? If all the other stuff that you've been trying hasn't been working, why not give me a chance?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great opportunity. So it's a good time to speak in New York to people, trying to win them over for this. A couple of groups that maybe he's struggled with and could win over. Absolutely. In his own backyard. I'm 100% behind it. Brian, I've got 2 minutes. I got to run, but I do want to put out one other quick thing. Some good news here. That the World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab has stepped down from his executive chairman role.
Wow.
So
stepped down.
Healing. Yeah, he wants us to. I'm sure he likes the strife and the turmoil and he wants us to just, forget about the restaurant. They can cheapen the restaurants by offering up bugs instead of meat, which he wants you to do. Yes, this guy is a creepy, cartoonish, authoritarian tyrant, wants to rule over us. His organization pays off politicians, and now he's finally stepping down. So
interesting. I'm gonna be
good riddance.
Kenneth B saying the cigar sales went up under Clinton. You're absolutely right. An unholy hoax. Damn the Dems. I agree. Yep, we got a million other stories we could get into, but of course we are pressed for time on today's quick show. We hope to bring you some more in-depth stuff coming up soon. Okay, well, Blake, thank you for joining us today. Thanks to Brian McWilliams joining us today as well. Would you kindly let people know where they can find you online?
The easiest spot would be TV's Blake Walley on Twitter X. And of course, the archive is always kept on my website, thenextlevelnews.com.
Any quick thoughts on the president of Iran dying and the ICC calling for arrests? On your way out the door.
Well, I'm not sure what to make of the helicopter crash. That was wild. I don't know if I still don't really know if it's was it an assassination? I think it's kind of quiet. I think people were speculating a lot of stuff. So maybe they see the guy that was there, the president, is not being as aggressive, and then somebody else could come in who would be more of pressing for war. I don't know yet. It's too early to say. I'm actually shocked that I haven't seen more information after the breaking story and what's going to happen next. And by
the way, for the record, yeah. I'm hearing it may be the Ayatollah's son who's next in line to secede, to take that position. And so now it's cleared a entrance ramp for a wide open opportunity for that person's son to take over. And you go,
that could be.
So I don't know either, but it's interesting to follow, coming on the heels of so much strife over there, in Iran being kind of at the center of it as well. And of course, it leads into the ICC, a organization that Donald Trump definitely was not a fan of. And then Biden came in and said, nope, we'll restore legitimacy to this group. And then they called on arrests. And I think this is something you've been calling on. So I want to get your take on the way out the door.
Oh, I didn't know what Trump had said about it, but I know he's, I think most of the candidates all going to lean pro-Israel to a certain extent.
The ICC in general, just being an anti-American organization, we're not taking marching orders. Really an unrecognizing
of United Nations. From Trump. Right. Well, maybe I think of United Nations, but the International Criminal Court is what that's the Netherlands. That's the Hague. Those are the people that prosecuted the Nazis. So I think we hold them in high regard, and they should be taken seriously. And they're calling on the arrests of several top people in Israel, including Benjamin Netanyahu, prime minister, and a couple of his top people. But they're also calling for heads of Hamas. So it's all for war crimes, and I support that. I don't think Netanyahu is a good guy. I've always thought he's, a really one of the worst tyrants on the planet. And I don't think you'll see this kind of favorable cover. I mean, you see a lot of conservative media that act like state media for Israel. That wouldn't even fly in Israel. It'd be laughable. So you don't get a very good view. But I don't think the international community sees Israel in the same light that people in the United States do. And I think that's falling apart. And I think you're seeing a lot of these, campus protests, which I also think are being taken out of context. That a lot of people are just calling for peace. They're not necessarily, supporting Hamas or the calling for the death and destruction of Israel. But I would like to see, this is not an anti-Israel thing, but I would like to see the heads of Hamas and also the heads of the Bibi Netanyahu regime. There you go. Full investigation, full stop to all the conflict going on. Investigate, and it makes those arrests if necessary. And they should, serve. They should face whatever consequences are coming to them. So I hold the ICC a lot more high regard than I would Bibi.
All right. Well, there we have it. Some other breaking news that we will get into a little bit more on a future episode. But for today, the clock has run out on Blake Walley, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes.
TV's Blake Walley on X.
Thanks, everybody.
The next level news to be continued, Blake. Thank you, sir.
All right. Sounds good. Take care. All right. Peace.
All right. There he goes, everybody. Let me just make sure I buzz through some of the highlights that you would have found if you were following the New American Media on X at American_media_. If you like independent journalism and would like to support us, please go to patreon.com/the New American Media. You can assist us. So here I'm going to buzz through a couple of stories that I found relevant and you would have found on the New American Media X feed. Libs of TikTok showing us Jimmy, middle schooler in California who ran for commissioner of school spirit and patriotism. His principal allegedly made him change his speech and remove all mention of patriotism. And when he refused, she reportedly didn't allow him to even give the speech. And he was forced to sit there humiliated and watch the other contenders give their speeches. Jimmy's mom is asking people to watch and share her son's speech, which he wasn't able to give. It's very patriotic. So, take a look. It's a few minutes long, maybe 3 minutes, it appears to be. That's on our feed. Good stuff. Here's another story. Very interesting. It's been reported that 25 female teachers have been arrested in 16 states in only the past 12 months. And that's feared to be only the tip of the iceberg. This person tweeting, why do female teacher predators always get less time than the male teachers? Have you thought about that? That's in response to this. By the way, saying the vetting process for hiring teachers or workers around students needs to be vastly more complex and strict. Because of this, Arkansas high school teacher sentenced to 13 years in prison after she was accused of abusing one of her minor students. 33-year-old Heather Hare sentenced for transporting a minor across state lines for activities. And so she's not doing so well. The teacher met the student on his first day of senior year, and she quickly came on to him. Teacher would schedule one-on-one counseling and began communicating through social media. Then 20 to 30 times at her home and her vehicle and her classroom and in the parking lot at Bryant High School. They did what they did. She even chaperoned a class field trip to Washington, D.C., where she and a student engaged in activities. And she's been sentenced to 13 years in prison and will serve a lifetime of supervised release. So there's a lot of angles to that. You always want to think about that male teacher. But look around, folks. It's 2024. There may be more to this than meets the eye. And a lot of unanswered questions. Was this a guy a couple months shy of 18? Is this, it's entering senior year, 17? Guys and girls, are they treated the same? Is it just as abhorrent when a different teacher does it? Or is it only bad when certain people do it? That is a good question. I shared this, a Frontier passenger making an entire flight deboard because she refused to comply with exit row instructions. Then she got arrested. She was allegedly refusing to help save anyone in case of an emergency and then yelling at flight staff. So good for her if you want to watch an idiot get arrested. Just stupid. Don't be like her. Anyway, John Hawkins saying, I don't get why the school has a commissioner of school spirit and patriotism if the person in it is not allowed to mention patriotism. Good question. Anyway, these are some stories you can find at American_media_ on X. This is an interesting post. This says, it's an anon picture, and it says where'd it go? Why is it changing? The Constitution actually says you can legally overthrow your government if they are tyrannical. And the reply says, more and more people are waking up. We need to move past the waking up point to the accountability point. Decades in the planning, WEF, WHO, they're all involved. If you're waiting on an election in November, you're not paying attention. Next pandemic or bird flu that they come up with will seem much worse. Then they'll talk about immune systems. And it's a diabolical plan set on a scale never seen before. So be ready, people, when in the course of human events. Because our founding documents say when you are finding yourself under the unpleasant and unfair air quote rule of a tyrant, you have a duty to cast off the shackles and install a form of government that represents you and your community. And a lot of people are feeling helpless at this time. in America. So everybody's talking about Terrence Howard and Joe Rogan. BRCA 1 gene. Can't even talk about it on this platform without fear of being silenced. So do your own research and go take a look at that conversation, would ya? All right, so this is Fannie Willis on with Rachel Maddow. Trying to talk away, stealing taxpayer funds and going on vacations and paying her lover to work with her. By the way, this is on the heels. I meant to mention this with Blake. Michael Cohen now admitting to overinflating invoices and pocketing tens of thousands, if not significantly more money from Trump, stealing from the Trump campaign, stealing from Trump. So that's interesting. Fannie Willis received a letter from the United States highlighting her misuse of $500,000 for Youth Empowerment and Gang Prevention Center and $2 million for the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative. So, misusing the funding. There's a video at American_media_. Judge Merchan is visually exasperated, telling potential jurors not to discuss the case in the courtroom, blah, blah, blah. Elon posted about X being boycotted. Here, let me just click on this. Post is unavailable. What? Meta and Google spent nearly $1 million lobbying to fight an online child safety bill. Meta and Google accused of fighting a bill that would keep children safe online. Meanwhile, X is opening a new office specifically to fight child crime. And Elon asks a question, but why does this boycott continue of him? Can you please make it make sense? Yep. This over here, this is interesting. Ponzi scheme. DEI manager. What's her name? Furlough Smiles? Furlough Smiles. Defrauds millions from Facebook and gets fired. Then she gets hired by Nike as a DEI manager again. Then she defrauds again. Then she gets caught and sent to prison. Brazen fraud. Another six-figure sum stolen. Furlough Smile served as a lead strategist and global head of this employee resource group. What's her first name? It just keeps saying Furlough Smiles. I'm looking for a first name. Doesn't matter. Interesting. DEI stands for didn't earn it. It's racist. It's bigoted. It is exclusionary. It is discriminatory. It is illegal. It stands for didn't earn it. I'll say that a second time if I was thinking it a first time and didn't say it. If I will say it a third time, didn't earn it. That's racism. You don't do that. So it's an important issue. So yeah, sentenced to over 5 years for stealing $5 million for these fake initiatives to be racist against people based on attributes that they do not control, like the color of their skin and the genitalia that they possess. Barbara Furlough Smiles. There we go. 5.1 million. Vigilant News has this guy, Elijah Schaefer, his report. You can go ahead and find it. And I'll wrap on this. Silver. Silver's had a silver squeeze. They're so close to understanding. It's like Bitcoin, but they're physical coins backed up by some sort of commodity like silver. So it's interesting to look at. Maybe silver is going to go up and stay up. It's up to around 32. I didn't check today. That could have changed. Anyway, I am going to wrap for now on the Agree to Disagree show. Please make sure you're following us in all the places. Follow Brian McWilliams and get those Libertarian convention tickets. It's going to be a barn burner. In Washington, D.C. this weekend. Libertarian convention. Ron Paul, Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, RFK Jr. The hits go on and on. I can't believe we're living in an era where the Libertarian Party convention is relevant. I'm super excited. Kudos to everybody involved with putting this together. You have made this relevant. And you're going to get a chance to hold Trump and all these other people to account for their bad policy choices, in your opinion. Let's just hope they have an answer ready, because, can't bullshit a bullshitter, and Trump's a bullshitter. I hope he has legitimate answers. If he just comes with platitudes and pleasantries and falsehoods, that's not going to go over well. It has the potential to do some serious harm. And so, why do you watch car racing? Sometimes people watch for the crashes. Why do you watch MMA? Sometimes you're looking for that brutal knockout. So, like Brian McWilliams said, though, It was President Trump that's enthusiastically wanted to come and address the Libertarian Convention and ask for their support and say, look, I appreciate what your campaign platforms are. You got to admit, I've done some of this stuff correctly. And there's some areas you wish I would have some different policy positions, and I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to consider changing some of these policies. And maybe that could help your day-to-day life better than voting for a libertarian candidate who gets 2%, 3%, and watching your country get taken from you, stolen from you again by 2 or 3% when you could have made all the difference in the world. So it's a big move. So follow Brian McWilliams on X. He's at Lions of Liberty and at Brian McWilliams. Go get those Libertarian Convention tickets. Special thanks to Blake Walley. Follow him at TV's Blake Walley and The Next Level News. If you want to support him in his journalistic endeavors, you can find him on his Cash App. Where is it? I'm going to put it on the screen if I could find it quickly. So it's $Blake W99. $Blake W99 if you would like to help fund his journalistic endeavors. If you like the New American Media, follow us on Truth Social, the New American Media. Our Spotify podcast, The Agree to Disagree Show. Please find us and subscribe. Also, go ahead and find us on Rumble, the New American Media. Hit subscribe, play some videos, let the ad play. It's like tossing a couple pennies in the wishing well. Let the advertisements play before the shows start, and let a 2-hour show play. Just set it on a screen and go do some yard work. No, listen, of course, but if you got to leave it on a couple screens, it helps. It really boosts the numbers. And once we crack through a couple of these arbitrary numbers, places like YouTube, we can monetize the channel again. We were up until when they went wonky and decided to hate independent content creators and starve them of revenue. So youtube.com/@thenewamericanmedia. That has 1,400 videos. Please check that out. Also, Facebook, the New American Media, has a page. Follow us there. A group, TNAM's The Agree to Disagree Show. On Instagram, the New American Media. And on Telegram, TNAM and TNAM Chat. So thank you so much, everybody. It's going to be a busy week, so let's get right to it. I have a hunch that the things you do today are going to matter tomorrow. So do some good stuff today. Go do some good stuff, okay? Appreciate you. I love you. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Peace.